The transition to the Eagles is as follows. Raiders haven't won a playoff game since the 2002 postseason. Philadelphia Eagles didn't win a playoff game last season. So they bring in their new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
They have no issues at quarterback with Jalen Hurts. What's the approach, though, for Jalen Hurts to learn the new system?
Yeah, well, I'm told that the Eagles have spent a lot of time this offseason taking the old offense, or Nick Sirianni's system last year that Jalen Hurts is used to, mixing it with Kellen Moore's principles, putting it all in a pot with some gumbo and seeing what works and what Jalen Hurts is comfortable with. I'm told Hurts has done a good job this offseason of being vocal and taking ownership of the plays he likes, the plays he doesn't. Nick Sirianni has really trusted the process, trusted his new veteran play caller to handle a lot of things. Even though he's an offensive-minded head coach, he's not micromanaging everything, and so they're getting to work on it. And the feeling around the league, talking to several teams, that Saquon Barkley will make a major impact, maybe even like a Christian McCaffrey to 49ers type impact, because he's never had this sort of supporting cast, this kind of offensive line.
Yeah.
He's going to make Hurts' job a lot easier.
It's been funny to look at it and say, oh, Jalen Hurts has all these weapons now. It's like, well, wait a minute. What are the new weapons? Saquon Barkley has a lot of protection out in front of him, a lot of ability there. That's Jeremy Fowler with the latest for us.
Yeah, so I really wanted to talk about this because I made a couple videos over the weekend with regards to the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, and seeing the comebacks to that video, because I spoke very highly about Jalen Hurts and the Eagles and what I think that they're going to look like this season. And I wanted to address the comeback to this a lot, because a lot of people are saying that Jalen Hurts has been exposed and that he's actually not that good of a quarterback, and that that he's been figured out, and all of this nonsense, that he's only had like one good year out of all the other years. And it's just nonsense. And I'm not going to go on a whole rant and dispute all that again, because that was what I talked about in the previous video, honestly. But what I wanted to really point out here is, because now people are saying he's guaranteed to have a down year because he's learning a completely new playbook and a new system, and that he and has a new play caller and a new OC, and that it's pretty much guaranteed to have a down year. And it's like, okay, let's think about this for a second, because Jalen Hurts has succeeded at every single level of football that he has played, and he has had nothing but non-consistency. He's had a different play caller starting in college, his freshman year. Every single year, he's had a different play caller from then onward in the NFL. I mean, it's just outrageous. He's had zero consistency. And as a commenter, Ray Gerard 5554 pointed out, per Reuben Frank, who's a big guy from Philly's Philadelphia's local Eagles. He's like on post game live and all that type of stuff. In 5 NFL seasons, Jalen Hurts has had 13 play callers, position coaches, passing game coordinators, offensive head coaches, senior offensive assistants, or offensive consultants. Doug Peterson, Press Taylor, Marty Mornwig, Rich, I'm not going to read all these names, Sirianni, Shane Steichen, Cooter, So it's just, the reality is, and it's not to say that other teams don't also have some of this, that they only have this consistency, but to act like when you don't have a defining voice, whether it's your offensive head coach, whether it be a Stefanski, whether it be obviously Andy Reid, Sean McVay, Shanahan. I don't even want to just keep using those as examples, because those are the gold standard examples, because it doesn't matter when they have a different offensive coordinator with Andy Reid or Shanahan or McVay. It doesn't matter if they have other consultants or this, that, because everything still lives and dies by Shanahan, McVay, and Andy Reid. They are the offensive geniuses. They are the play callers. They are the ones that are doing everything. That consistency matters tremendously. No ifs, ands, or buts. And then again, whether you're not the most like genius of all geniuses, there's still the consistency with a Stefanski, with a Taylor, with any of these other teams. And we see that when you do have this revolving door, you don't get as consistent level of play. We see this in a perfect example of with Josh Allen, which is what I always point out. But we could also, though, see other circumstances when quarterbacks are resilient to this. With Kellen Moore, Dak Prescott played great. Then Kellen Moore left, and now people want to act like that Dak Prescott just continued to play great, therefore Kellen Moore is not great. But to me, what that highlights is that first off, that offense did not change tremendously when Kellen Moore left. Not to mention, there was a lot of consistency, and now even though Dak Prescott had a new coordinator, even though he had the consistency of Mike McCarthy, he was still able to be successful. Matthew Stafford switched organizations, went to Sean McVay, had immediate success, won a Super Bowl, right? So like this idea that Jalen Hurts is going to be incapable of learning a new playbook and dealing with a new play caller and a new offensive coordinator when he has dealt with someone new every single year since he was essentially like 17 years old is outrageous to me. Jalen Hurts has proven to be incredibly resilient. Same thing with Josh Allen. Even though these quarterbacks have not maybe had the success, especially Josh Allen not ever making it to a Super Bowl, have not had the levels of success that a lot of people believe that they could have, at the very least, they show resilience. Because Tua Tagovailoa did not have a great offensive coordinator and did not have a great offensive head coach when he first got in the NFL, right? He had a defensive head coach. And he looked awful. He looked so bad that they were ready to move on from him. They were trying to get Deshaun Watson. There was those rumors, right? Or maybe even Russell Wilson. It was like, let's get rid of him. Let's get rid of him. But yet, Jalen Hurts, despite all the inconsistencies, despite all of the issues from the coaching perspective. And again, Jalen Hurts did not have a stacked roster from day one, okay? He did not. He did not have this amazing run game. He did not have amazing wide receiver weapons. He did not have A.J. Brown originally. He didn't have that. And yet he still proved to be capable. He still led the Eagles to the playoffs. Every year that he's a starter, he's led the Eagles to the playoffs. And to act like that he's just being carried by them is just absurd to me. And even when he has an offensive coordinator who's a terrible play caller, which is literally what Troy Aikman himself said, and Troy Aikman shoots from the hip and is very honest and I think does great analysis. Troy Aikman's arguably my favorite guy out there when it comes to at least commentating at the very least. And he tried to put it nicely, but was just like, hey, calling plays is really difficult, and I'm not so sure the Eagles OC is doing a great job. And yet, with Jalen Hurts, they were still able to survive. They were with a terrible defense. He was still able to get them to the Super Bowl, and he put up decent numbers. Were they great numbers? No, they were roughly average numbers to a large degree, with still sprinkles of some outstanding top 5 quarterback play. So when you give Jalen Hurts now a legitimate play caller, a veteran play caller, someone who has established success, I just can't see why Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles won't improve significantly, especially adding a weapon like a Saquon Barkley. Great things can happen for the Philadelphia Eagles, and the pushback to me just sounds really, really funny. That they believe that Dak Prescott can have such high levels of success with a new coordinator and a different offense, aka last season. And yet someone like Jalen Hurts, who has proven year after year after year to be incredibly resilient, and now with a better offensive roster, that he won't have success. Tua, as soon as he got a new head coach, had immediate success. He immediately looked like a bona fide starting quarterback in the NFL. Obviously, it got derailed a little bit with his concussions, but then after that, in the following season, balled out and was in the MVP race. So this idea that as soon as you get a new offensive coordinator that you're guaranteed to have a down year, I mean, look at Lamar Jackson, new coordinator, boom, MVP. It's an absurd narrative that seems to only be said about Jalen Hurts, but none of these other quarterbacks. It's very bizarre to me. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe at the time people said that Lamar Jackson was going to have a down year. Maybe they said Tua was just going to continue to get worse. Maybe they said Dak is going to be worse. Like I don't know exactly, but it seems like it's a lot louder about Jalen Hurts and I don't know why. And it's interesting because it's not necessarily the media. The media seems to be a lot more high on Jalen Hurts than a lot of the other fans. And maybe I've just been getting a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans lately, and so they're coming out in droves. Who knows? But it just seems pretty pretty absurd. And obviously the most vocal anti-Eagles person is Nick Wright, and that was who I did the other day for his clips over the weekend. And he said that Jalen Hurts is an average quarterback, that the Eagles were the worst team was the worst team at the end of last season and will continue. He said they will continue that trajectory. He says, I see no reason why they will change and be different. And it's just comical to me because they added offensive players. They got a new offensive coordinator who everyone thought was good until he got to Philly. And it's just a fascinating conversation that's being had right now. And if anything, I think Jalen Hurts, listen, can Jalen Hurts be criticized for some of the things he's done? Of course, right? Every quarterback can. But the vast majority of comments about Jalen Hurts should be praised for his resilience and his ability to have success despite consistency. Year after year after year, he's proven that you can just give him just a box of sand and the dude can make a sandcastle. It's that simple to me. So I'm really excited to see what he could do with Kellen Moore and some new offensive weapons and some new energy there. And I think the Eagles will definitely be competitive this season. It's going to be a competitive season all around because of all these teams. But to count the Eagles out or think that they're just not going to be a good team or that Jalen Hurts is suddenly not a good quarterback or has been figured out, as my little niece says, it's just cuckoo bananas. Just absurd. So congratulations. You guys sound like an 11-year-old girl when you say that the Eagles are going to have a down year and that Jalen Hurts has been found out. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Jalen Hurts and the Eagles and the new system and apparently the 95% new plays? Do you think this will be good for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, or do you think that this will have some unintended consequences? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. Some of you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you a part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.